Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about the Effective Altruism movement, the book The Precipice, which originally piqued my interest in EA, and why I think EA is something you should definitely look into, read up on, and get involved with. For those of you who haven't heard of Effective Altruism, or EA, it's a movement that is based around being as effective with your time and your money as possible in order to generate the most amount of good in the world per charitable donation. The most common way of going about doing this is to probably research charities before you donate money to them in order to determine if the money is being spent well in whatever that charity uses it for, as opposed to how it may have been used if you donate to a different charity. An example would be if you donate money in order to build a water pump in Africa, that someone living in the first world, this seems like a good use of money because we associate Africa with dirty water. So there's some sorts of parasites and infections in the water. It's a dry climate, so water pump, that's a good idea. But when the pump is built, there may be sort of unintended consequences that we never become aware of. So the pump may break fairly easily, and there's no one for miles around who understands it enough to fix it. Maybe there's intricate parts in the pump that require you to send away for them, and there might be a month before they get here. So this would be an example of a well-meaning person making a poor donation in terms of effectiveness. In this example, EA would actually spend time talking to the local people about what they actually need, as opposed to what people halfway around the world think that they need. EA does the research into how best to supply people with the money in order to help them to change their lives, whether that's by giving them cash in hand or by working with multiple other organizations to build infrastructure necessary to give them a better chance in life. EA also looks into which areas donations would have the greatest contribution to overall world happiness. So maybe this village doesn't need your money as much as some people who are living in India but who have had little help from the outside world who would benefit more. The general rule is that areas which are being underfunded benefit more from a donation than an area that has already had work done to improve it. That's assuming the donation to both areas is the same. But in attempting to solve that one singular problem, we also begin to figure out how people address and perceive problems. There's so many branching off questions about how and where people should donate that you now have to take into account. So should you donate to local charities where you have a better understanding of the issues and you can directly see if you're achieving results? Or should you give to people living in harsher conditions overseas in the interest of doing good in a worldwide sense? Should you just forget both of these and donate to groups who are working to prevent man-made climate change, which is better on a big picture scale, but may actually make things worse for people in the present who have to give up some of the luxury in their lives? You see, once you start thinking on this ultra macro scale, it can be easy to become overwhelmed by all the facts and the statistics and the number of possible features that are selected against by your action or your inaction. It's too big a task for the human mind to just comprehend. An interesting point to bring up regarding not only the EAU movement, but with any movement based around improving human happiness, is to ask, why is EA any better than many other groups and people throughout history of trying to change the world for the better, but instead left it worse than they found it? I would sort of optimistically point out that the principles and the arguments of EA, they're based in science, they're based in real world results, and they're learning from past mistakes. Just because they're the best doesn't mean they're perfect, and they may only improve the problem by the smallest of margins, if at all, in some cases. I also think that because of the subjectivity of good and the emotional impulses that affect even the most rational thinkers, it's impossible to be right all the time, even by your own standards of morals. So what is the point of spending so much of your life striving to do quote unquote good, apart from just trying to keep a clear conscience or maintain some hold on sanity, if it's all relative, it's all for nothing, and you're likely to make the worst call most of the time? Thankfully, this is where The Precipice, Existential Risk and the Future of Humanity by Toby Ord provided me with answers to some of these questions at least. The book defines an existential risk as a threat not only to the continued survival of humanity as a species, but also a threat to the potential of humanity. So that potential is all the good that humanity could do if it was given until the end of time to mature. And even if we can't figure out how to run the world in the most optimal way for everyone, that's not to say that we as a species won't eventually come up with a solution. Now, it's important to emphasize just how critical this point of human history is, where technology has progressed so rapidly within the last couple hundred years, the last 50 years. It hasn't given humanity sufficient time to completely internalize and comprehend the power of this technology and to learn how to appropriately use the tools at its disposal. It's at this point that the threat of annihilation for mankind and its potential has never been greater. We've advanced and spread ourselves far enough around the world that short of a catastrophe that's literally biblical proportions, there are no real natural disasters that humanity couldn't recover from completely given enough time. The cost of this advancement is that we have developed weapons of mass destruction that have almost wiped us out by accident on a few occasions. Add to that a number of emerging risks such as man-made climate change, bioengineered pandemics, underlined artificial intelligence, and there's just a lot of chance for something to at least cripple or fracture global society to the point where natural disasters are once again able to sort of finish humanity off. Or in his book, he estimates that the base chance of extinction in the next 2 centuries is going to be 1 in 6 per century, which is pretty high, most of which is due to the threats that mankind has manufactured for itself. It's also possible for this number to increase if we fall asleep at the wheel for whatever reason. Wouldn't put it past us. So I'm going to do my best to spend the rest of the video replacing this big helping of pessimism I've just poured into your ear with a life-saving shot of optimism. There's an increasing number of people, relatively small, around the world, including those associated with EA, who are dedicating their lives to best preparing the world for trials ahead over the next couple of centuries. Whether it's the animal rights movement trying to improve conditions for livestock and cut down on or find substitutes for the very energy-intensive meat production process, or it's engineers who are trying to ensure that the AI, if brought to a point of consciousness comparable to that of a human, is properly aligned with our set of values. There is definitely trying to still turn things around, and if we take the right steps, with the information we have today telling us the right steps are, we can aim to keep this 1 in 6 risk as constant as possible and not allow it to rise. And once we are out of the danger zone, we can gradually sort of reset the world to a more sustainable state, a more healthy state. So I still haven't answered the questions relating to why EA is any different, or why you should worry about doing good if there's a high chance you're going to make somebody's life worse. And to that, I'd say that by opting out of trying to make a difference, you are by default making things worse. I mean, just by existing, we are using up everyone's using up resources and generating waste. Even if you're sort of sitting in your bubble, trying not to have any effect on the outside world. I think we should all try to at least mitigate that sort of minimum effect as much as possible. And from there, build into having a net good effect on the world. I say you need to do as much as you can with the time that you have. Just don't give in to apathy. Just sort of be stoic. Try and try again. Try not to think about the skill of it all as much as possible. Just try to work on doing the best in your small patch of the world. Even if what you do is relatively small, you still have the power of inspiration and influence over all the people around you, and you therefore have the power to change the future. You have the power of inspiration and influence over all the people around you. You have the power to change the future. Maybe you can't save the entire world, or maybe everyone can't save the world, but by doing something, while keeping as open a mind as possible, you can surprise yourself with just how far you can go if you're willing to really open yourself up to just a new way of living, a new way of reality, by listening to your deepest truths and by just going all in and acting on them. Now, I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong. I just hope that I can inspire you to make a change in your life and to pursue a vision of the future that resonates with you. Because being apathetic and not fully committing to or taking responsibility for things that you care about is how those things will get worse. I mean, if you think EA is the greatest thing in the world, then by all means commit to the move. Looking to give Weller 80,000 hours. If you think it's just and other movement now to make a quick backward to leave the world worse off than it is, then dedicate yourself to coming up with powerful, legitimate arguments against the movement. If they change their actions because of you, maybe you're wrong about them. Maybe they've proved themselves to be one of the better organizations out there, and they're motivated to be in the exception to the rule. If not, you could do your part to protect people by exposing them. So even if you find out that what you're doing is the wrong way or the least effective way to do something, that is wisdom that will prevent someone else from repeating your mistakes. And little by little, it's learning from mistakes that help people to build really good systems of doing things. Your failures are not useless if you learn from them. So, why do I think that EA is it's just a great movement that deserves a bigger spotlight? Well, for me personally, it seems to be some competent movement that is using all the information available to it to not only improve world happiness as much as possible, but also to figure out whole new systems of ethics and morals based around a scientific understanding or scientific mindset of effectiveness and results that are based in reality. It's certainly the best systematic approach to doing good that I've come across, but that's just my opinion. What I want you to go away with, and this is why I've tried to keep this last section as vague as possible, that there are potentially as many right ways to do something as there are wrong ones. Nobody is wise enough to see all ends and to see how everything pans out. And all you can do at the end of the day is to take a leap of faith based on your deepest beliefs. And that's how you're going to save the world. So, I'm going to leave it there. I hope I piqued your interest in the EA movement and that you're going to go and look into it properly, because for a small bit, there's a lot of resources out there that not a lot of people are making good use of. Just whatever your beliefs are for or against charity, or about trying to do good, whether it's a noble or a naive position to take, I hope that you just get out there and voice your thoughts, because without a big sphere of opinions and ideas, and without people willing to have their minds changed and hear out the other side, I definitely think the world will be not necessarily better, and it's going to be a lot smaller without good discussion. If you've got anything to add to what I've said, as always, please leave it in the comments below, and until next time, keep growing.